So, let me tell you a story about Rurik. So, Rurik was a gambler. He was a dwarf. I think he was a fighter, really tough, strong guy. And he was in debt to the Grey Guild, which were I think there were some bad guys in Sussex. Does that sound right? That sounds right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there we go. That's my start. So we got on a quest to find some apple and someone's two children, which was Sharwin and Talgan. And there was some story about like the goblins bring this apple every solstice, and the apple like heals people or something. And so we go through some like goblin. I don't know if it was a well or a cave or a fortress or something. You guys remember? I guess that'd just be Tracy.
Oh. Yeah, it was like an underground. It was like a fortress dug into the ground. I guess it was really more of a dungeon.
Sure, yeah.
It was a dungeon.
And so we'd gone through there, and we found some relatively mini bossy type guy that we beat. And it turned out that Talgan had died. But we found out that the apple, from talking to some like kobolds or dragon people or something like that, that the apple grows on what's called a Gulthias tree. And there was some quote that I had in my notes that is, apples will spread and all will serve. Sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we found the Gulthias tree and some evil druid whose name I think was Bellic. And then we also found Sharwin and some paladin, who we later found out was named
Sir Bradford.
Yep.
Sir Badford.
Good old Sir Bradford.
And so we defeated that evil druid, and then Milo, who was one of our other party members, took a cutting of the tree. Rurik took some sap from the tree, and we burned the Gulthias tree. So it was all gone except for that sap and that. I guess sorry, I didn't mention this, but the tree.
The apple?
We did take the apple. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The Gulthias tree, I think we had learned had some sort of like undead properties or something like that.
Yeah. Well, it had like enthralled at least Sir Bradford. I can't remember if Sharwin had been like under its mind control, but Sir Bradford was.
Yeah.
So yeah, we decided it was evil because it was probably bad that it could take over people's minds.
Right.
Yeah.
So we took the cutting, we took the sap, and the apple, and we burned the tree. And we went back to, again, I think it was Sussex, and we paid off our debt. Now, just quick aside, a tip for DMs here. If you're going to introduce a big bad as an NPC, don't have them say something super suspicious like "I'm your cousin" or "I know you" or anything like that, because the players are gonna know, and they're gonna be like, "That's weird," and they're gonna go away, right? So Rurik meets a dwarf named Alduin while he's gambling, and Alduin says he's Rurik's cousin. And Rurik totally goes along with it. He's got an adventure for us, and so we're gonna go on this adventure that Alduin here wants us to go on. And so he says he gives us a map of the Stone Tooth Mountain, and he said that there's some forge there called Kundrakar. He wants the forge, but we can keep any treasure or whatever that we find in and around the mountain. We get basically everything else. And he gives us some like camping things and some horses because he's Rurik's cousin. He's a great guy. And he says that we'll meet up in Sussex in 1.5 months. So on our way out of town, Sir Bradford. Oh, sorry, someone had something.
Well, at this juncture, the party gets a new friend, Obadiah, who was one of the original.
Yeah, Obadiah was, yeah.
Obadiah was in the fighting pits, earning some extra coin, and met a mysterious warforged who had shelves carved all over her body to contain weird old books. And upon hearing that they were going to investigate some mysterious ancient dwarven forge, she oddly decided to come along because she was a big history buff.
Yes. We should
Also,
clarify
I think
party
Tracy.
at this point
Yes.
is very, very different from the party at the current
Yes.
Right.
juncture in Torchline. AJ and Devin have not even joined the game yet at this point. It's basically it's Paul / Rurik, it's me, and
You as
I
Nova.
was playing Nova, an Elven Paladin, a former crime syndicate enforcer turned. Oh, I gotta cover my back. So, I've turned over a new leaf. It's all good. Definitely a lawful good paladin right now, and not totally running to the order of law so that I don't get whacked.
And then
let's see. Then Obadiah, who was an Earth Genasi, that was Yuhang's character.
Who I don't think you've actually ever met. He doesn't really hang out on the Discord so
Nope.
much.
He comes here for game, and that's pretty much it. And then there was Milo, who was an Air Genasi, like telepath.
that was played by
I
Aaron.
guess who was Erin, who was Jared's girlfriend at the time.
It is worth noting, though, that while I can't say whether or not they'll come up in the future, after their characters left and I joined, they have not been mentioned again, with the exception of one of them, which played a minor role as a bad guy. But and then also just to clarify, because of the way Scout said it, Scout was not a Warforged that oddly joined the group. Scout was a Warforged named oddly that joined the group.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their name was Oddly.
Audley.
Yes.
Oddly.
Yes. And Oddly had never had traveling companions before. She had been created as a wizard's apprentice / servant, attained free will, attained stabbing her creator in the back, and had been wandering the wilds, talking to plants and birds and stuff, and studying Fey lore ever since. And this was the first time she had ever traveled with anyone, and she was pretty stoic and gruff about it.
All right. So sorry. I probably should have done that at the beginning. I'm telling my story now. Okay. So, on the way out of town, Sir Bradford and Sharwin, who were the two people we saved, if you can remember, they pull us aside and they tell us that the Torchline is threatened. There's some group that's infiltrated like every part of government or something like that.
It's actually worth mentioning really fast. So the Torchline, just because we reference it kind of in passing a lot, there's 3 continents that make up this world. Which one is the Torchline on?
Roden.
Roden, Mekuna, and the third one.
Umalara.
Yeah, so Roden is where we started, and the Torchline, on this continent, there are 5 big cities that make up the Torchline. Each one is kind of connected to one of the 5 main gods that are the 5 main, the pantheon that are kind of the main worshipped gods in this world across all of the continents, but specifically in these 5 cities, they believe that these 5 gods are like the true 5 gods, and while there may be other minor deities and stuff, these are the ones that are actually running things and are
I'd never caught on that there was a specific god associated with each of the cities.
I don't know if there's actually one. I might have that wrong. There's not necessarily one for each city, but it's 5 cities and 5 gods, and the cities and the gods are those are connected. I assume
there is. But yeah, so the cities are Sussex, Kronos, Dover, Vox, and what was the last one?
Fredericksburg.
This will only be important later because we accidentally destroy a number of them.
We don't.
Only 2.
We don't.
Anyway, I'm getting ahead.
We failed to stop them from getting
destroyed. There we go.
This is why I asked about if spoilers were okay, and I'm glad the answer is yes.
Cool piece of lore about the Torchline. I remember Jared saying this. The reason it's called the Torchline is because it's the cities communicated to each other via fire signals in the olden times, and they sort of together make up the political governance of the continent.
Yeah.
Okay, and sorry, real quick, I also wanted to mention the gods. So there's King of Roads, King of Shadows, King of Gifts. Do you guys remember the other two?
King of Strife.
King of Law?
Yeah.
That sounds right. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and they don't have names, really. That's how they're referenced. It's just the King of Roads or the King of whatever.
Or at least that's how we know them. By.
Yeah, or people in the Torchline. That's how they're referenced.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so on our way out of town, Sir Bradford and Sharwin pull aside, tell us about the Torchline being threatened. So Sharwin tells us about their group called the Daggers, and they're trying to stop some of these bad guys. They have a call sign, this group, so that you can tell if someone is part of their group. So they give you a number less than 12, and the countersign is a number that adds up to make 12. So if they say, I've seen 7 goats going here, you say, yeah, but where are the other 5? Or look at those 5 apples, or something like that. Very easy to remember. Yeah, it's great.
Nothing can go wrong.
What's that?
Nothing can go wrong.
Yeah. And they also mentioned that there's a meeting in Kronos, which again is one of the Torchline cities, in 3 months to reaffirm people's faith in the Torchline. So we kind of fast track. We get to the Stone Tooth Mountain. And we see some smoke coming out of a hole in the ground, and it's some sort of cook fire. And some of us go down to kind of investigate that fire. And we find that there are some prisoners down there that some orcs had taken prisoner. And I guess as we were talking to them or something, orcs start coming. So we have these NPCs start climbing up the rope that we had dropped down this hole. But as they climb up, the NPCs fall and die. And I have literally never felt so bad for NPCs. It was, I know we're fast tracking this, but I really felt bad that we had killed these 2 NPCs because we're yeah, go up the rope that we've made. Yeah, it was awful.
It was emotionally catastrophic.
I think we were all
It was my first session, and I was like, okay, so Jared is fucking serious about this.
Yeah, oh man.
This man is gonna mess us up. All right, let's go.
And he did.
Oh. So there was a session that I missed in there, but I kind of had some last time on notes, which was something about some great Ulf. Do you guys remember the story, or should I just? No. Okay. So
we can probably anything that doesn't super relate to what happens in the main points later. We can probably.
Well, I'm super curious, so I...
Oh, go for it then. Yeah.
I'll put a few notes that I have, which is the great Ulf. Would let us get to some treasure if the potato gets something shiny. It was a note.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is a very important story.
Okay,
right.
So first of all, I have to say we had an epic fight with these orcs. We did really great. Milo threw up a psychic barricade. Oddly hit 50 headshots with her giant gun that she had.
That's right.
Thunder
Fuck.
shotgun.
Her giant thunder shotgun, which unfortunately makes as much noise as thunder. So this was a very, 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 very loud fight that we had.
Oddly was an artificer, right? Yeah.
Yes. But an old form artificer where they gave you a giant gun.
Yeah,
which they
understood.
cut out for some
Artificer.
reason. For some reason they decided that was a bad idea. So we had this epic fight, and that we actually succeeded in, I believe. But then we tried to leave, and then the Great Ulf, who was an ogre, chased us around the side of the mountain.
That's right.
before
He
finally hunting us all down and beating us all unconscious.
Yeah,
That
he
was
was.
the
He
first
was
party
sort of
fight.
Yeah, that's true.
I
We
never
really
heard
did
about
have a
this party wipe.
Yeah, we didn't really think of it as much. I think it was a little bit scripted.
I haven't heard of this either.
Like,
Rurik
That's
never
why-
loses.
this is why we all
Yeah.
ended. Yeah, I bet if Rurik had been there, we would have had like absolutely no problem.
Uh-huh.
No joke.
We
Uh,
all
Rurik
split
wasn't
up.
here for this?
No, I think that must have been the
not-
session.
Yeah, but yeah, the Great Ulf was an ogre, like Scout said, and he was like the sort of chieftain of this mountain full of orcs.
Yeah, so he knocked us all unconscious and put us all in a cage, and then we had an interesting conversation with him about trying to negotiate our release. I don't remember if he was just gonna like cook us and eat us or what.
Typical
But
orc
he
things.
told us. Sorry.
I said typical orc things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were. He told us about this giant series of caves that were deeper in the mountain through the Glitterheim, which is this big old sparkly, cool rock place.
Crystal cavern
And-
type thing.
Crystal Cavern, yeah. And there were things that he wanted on the other side of that. I believe he talked about the forge itself and the dwarves guarding it as like he wanted to get there and get past them. And we were like, well, if you let us go, we'll do that for you. No tricks, no backstabbing. If you let us out of this cage, we will 100% just work for you now. We're not lying. And for some reason, even Ulf didn't believe that. But I'm trying to remember exactly how he phrased it. Tracy, do you remember?
It was something like. It was God.
So there was a potato on the ground
There was a potato involved, and it was something like,
and a pile of garbage.
yeah, like
with
it
sparkly
was
things.
something like if I will, I will let you out if that potato moves on its own or something, or
Or was he told us that we were as useful to him as potatoes, and if that
right,
potato
right,
did something shiny for him, then he would believe that we could.
right.
Obadiah, who was an Earth Genasi, had the ability to mold Earth, and so Obadiah raised the Earth underneath the potato and made it slowly roll over to the pile of garbage and next to a shiny object. At which point the ogre stared at it for like a full silent 60 seconds and then said he was a man of his word and let us out of the cage.
That's amazing.
Great.
That is so good.
It was
amazing.
primo. It was so good.
Now, what I don't remember is there was another ogre or a priestess.
Yeah, this was the burbug.
Yeah, like a shaman or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I have that in my notes, but again, this was still the session I missed. So
Was that its name, or did you mean bugbear?
burbug is the name of the person,
Oh,
and they tell you guys, I guess, not to trust Ulf and to trust them instead. Does that sound
Yes.
right?
Yep.
I have only the vaguest memories of this.
I think they pulled aside Milo and told her, like, work with us instead. We're trustworthy. And again, we were like,
Please let us go.
okay,
Right,
let
like
us
some
out
of
now.
the orcs were like wanting to rebel, like they
Mhm.
didn't like Ulf, but
Yeah.
I don't remember too much about this.
And then of the Glitterheim, mostly all I remember is that they took all our stuff, so we didn't have our belongings, we didn't have our armor or weapons. Most of what I remember at the Glitterheim was there was at one point we found a field of poison spores with like a corpse in it, but oddly who didn't need to breathe and was at no risk of being poisoned. Simply walked over and found a magical longsword with the corpse, which she kept, despite not being able to wield longswords. for a long time, and that'll come back later.
I think there were like monsters that were on the ceiling, and they would try to grab from above.
That sounds about right.
And I'm assuming we killed that.
We killed, as usual for this party, everything we saw.
We killed a lot.
All right, but then
So,
anything else about Glitterheim? Because the next thing I have is that you got to Kundrakar.
Kundrakar!
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so they made it through Glitterheim and got to Kundrakar,
Kundrakar being
the forge.
The big dwarven forge.
the forge inside the
The
mountain.
ancient, cursed dwarven forge.
What are
Because...
for?
yeah, because... well, I guess, let's see. So, I think this is when Rurik... like, when, Paul, you were able to be here for this, right? Because I remember Rurik...
Yeah.
Like, specifically as a dwarf, kind of getting us an in to be able to talk to these people.
Yeah.
By these people, I mean the dwarves who have been trapped in this forge underground for 1,000 years or something, and because they were cursed.
Right. Yeah, we learned.
They were like cursed with eternal life as long as they kept making weapons and shit. And the reason that Ulf wanted access to the forge is so that he could force the dwarves to make him weapons, so he could go conquer whatever. So you don't care. Like
that again. That makes something later in my notes actually make sense to me. So thank you very much.
And if I remember correctly, from information we got later, the dwarfs were like, "Well, work's work." Like that was more or less their feelings on it. They're like, we build things and they have more work for me to do, and I get to live as long as I keep working. So
right, that part, because if they laid down their hammers, they would just die, just like turn to dust or something.
Mm-hmm.
So
this was the most exciting day of Audley's life.
It was pretty cool.
This was like Audley had been a huge history nerd and historian, and to suddenly wander into like, oh, here's actual history. These people have been here for frickin' ever. So Audley just spent a whole lot of time sitting and talking with the craftsmen, and she actually had proficiency with smith's tools, which came in handy. They made weapons and armor for all of us that were there. And because Audley was a smith, she worked with them and forged her own like armor plating, and just had a real good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember what our plans really were at that point. Were we just going to take some equipment from the dwarves and then like fight our way back out?
That was the plan.
Yeah, I've got notes on that. Sorry. So yeah, going back just a little bit. Yeah, to get in, we like had turned invisible or something, and then yeah, Rurik, because he was a dwarf, was like, well, I'll just talk to them because they're dwarves and I'm dwarves, and then yeah, that got us an in with Namira, who was like kind of leading the dwarves. And
should start taking notes.
Namira told us about I think two main things. One, that there was a dragon who was named Nightscale, and it was a black dragon that was down below and was taking their arms somehow. Like, I don't know if it was like demanding
right, they
from them.
Yeah, what was
they would just dump all their stuff like down this hole where the dragon was after they made it. And she's the one that told us that, yeah, the forge is cursed and can't stop. And then she told us about someone named Durgadin who is dead. I think that was like their old leader. But then it got handed to Alduin, who was their second in command. They were put in charge. Alduin tried to summon a fiend, but it got him killed. And so his ghost now haunted the barracks that was there. And we said that we would clear the barracks and pit the orcs against the dragon. That was our plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you guys said, we used the forge to make cool stuff. And so we went into the barracks, and we Tracy, I think you had, or Vinaya, Tracy's character, had found. Or no, sorry, this is still Nova.
Yeah, this is still Nova.
Yeah, still Nova. Found out that there was a ghost in the pool of like water in the barracks. So we start talking to the ghost, and we mention the dragon down below, and the ghost immediately leaves to go fight the dragon. He's like, a ghost, a dragon in these parts? No, we'll take care of that. And so we follow it, and Ghost Alduin possesses Milo and starts fighting the dragon as Milo. I have a note that Rurik double crits the dragon, and we end up defeating the dragon.
Yeah,
that's the double crit talking about the other day.
Yeah. So that was, and Rurik does so much damage. So double crit, that's just stupid.
Great weapon fighter double crit with a great sword.
I think that sounds right. Yeah. It was probably some ridiculous, stupid amount of damage, like 60 or 70 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember it being just like a comical number for a level 3
hit
character.
Points than any of us would dream of having for like 5 more levels.
Yeah. And then so Alduin decides to have a council of the dwarves while we're kind of like looting. And he this is the part that now makes sense. He hears about the orcs and gets pissed that I think that they were okay with making weapons for them or something like that. Or maybe just that the orcs are allowed to live in the mountain, I don't know. And he says he released, actually, Tracy, it sounds like you got something. Go ahead.
Huh?
Oh, never mind. Okay, sorry.
No.
And he said he releases the dwarves, and so he touches one of the dwarves, and it just crumbles to dust. And so we're like, that's not okay. So we start fighting Alduin, the ghost dwarf. He possesses Nova, so this is Tracy's character.
Yeah.
And I have a note that Oddly fights Nova with their gun, and the last shot was a crit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually really bad. It almost one shot.
It was very close to actually killing.
Just straight into the death threshold of damage.
Nova was really, really low health, and the thunder cannon did, I think, 3d8 damage on a normal hit.
Something like that, or 4d6,
68.
or yeah.
It was a grotesque number of dice.
An incredibly high number of dice.
I remember just holding it in my hands, like staring at Tracy, like, okay.
Sorry.
I need to roll real bad. Basically, she just sort of put her giant shotgun in Nova's chest and just sort of blasted.
Blew the ghost out.
Yeah, did blast that ghost right out.
So yeah, Ghost was killed, but Nova was okay. And here's where we learned that Namira says they're okay with the curse because they can keep doing their trade, and maybe we can bring dwarves back to this area.
You're like, we have an opening if anyone wants to be leashed to an anvil for the rest of the existence.
And so there was no. I've got more notes, but there was no note in my notes that said that Nova was leaving the party.
Yeah, it just kind of happened.
Okay.
I think what happened is that we weren't able to meet for a long time.
Yeah, I did have a 3.5 month gap between those two.
Yeah, it was a very long hiatus. Yeah.
What's up?
I remember how Nova left because it was one of the first things we mentioned in the session that I started. It sounded like you didn't remember, but continue.
No, my recollection and my intention anyway is that once is that sort of after the experience of being possessed and then shot in the chest with a giant shotgun, Nova said, "Fuck this, I'm out. No more adventuring to me. I am actually legitimately turning a new leaf this time and going back to Sussex and actually applying myself as a paladin of the Order of Rhodes. See y'all fuckers later."
That's fair.
And I think I remember when I joined in, Jared mentioning like that you guys just wake up and Nova has just kind of like Irish goodbyed and left. Is that like I think
that's fine. That's fair.
And that might be a good time for us to talk about.
That's more of a question than a statement for
like,
Tracy.
yeah,
you decide how that goes.
I mean, she wouldn't like just stop and just sit there and wait for y'all to go to sleep and then sneak off. She would say, "Hey, you know what? I'm over this bullshit. I'm gonna see y'all when I see ya." Like, she's not gonna. She wouldn't be. I mean, you did not know her, but she was.
I was gonna say technically none of the characters that remain actually knew this character that we're talking about, so it can go however you want it to have gone.
Yeah. But yeah. No, I mean, it all, like, I also feel like it's weird for her to have just done that and not, like, have stuck with you all in order to get back to the surface. I don't know how that is going to work.
Very stealthily.
In reality.
Well,
Nova was not stealthy.
Then maybe she did make that.
Who knows?
She might have
20'd and snuck out and then was never heard from again.
Yeah.
She could have, like, stuck around, but been like, I'm not fighting. Good luck. Here's here's the tiniest lay on hands I can spare, and the rest is for me. Farewell, all of you.
I like that you went from one paladin to just a different paladin.
Well,
this is potentially a good time to talk about the other cast now that is joining in.
Can I speak to Devin's?
One more thing.
Yeah, I mean, because I really liked the paladin ability set, and I was really interested in it, but I just couldn't make Nova work as far as her character concept.
Gotcha.
And actually, at level 3, when a paladin is supposed to take like their oath and get all their fancy powers, I realized, boy, Nova's not feeling any of these. And I just multi-classed to fighter, so she was really only a level 2 paladin. But Tracy, was really interested in doing more of the paladin shit. So I just rolled a newer, better paladin.
Nice.
I've got one more thing, and then we can get to your guys' characters, if that's okay, AJ. Alright, so another side note. When your DM starts a session with, "Hey guys, you remember that thing that happened a while ago?" You shouldn't forget that thing, because that thing is important. Yeah, so
players will never remember that, and it won't work. is what Paul is saying.
we'll get to what that means later. But yeah, so then the group ran into the reigning group, I guess, ran into some new party members. Vinaya, Orin, and Vane, collectively the Frost, though I hadn't written that down yet.
That was not true yet.
Nope, not at all yet.
So never mind. That's why it's not written down.
Yeah.
Yeah, AJ, you can start. Go for it.